You're listening to the Daily Sales Tips Podcast, and I'm your host, Scott Ingram. This episode is less of a tip and more of a trailer and a look ahead. I realized that the first episode for this podcast is now nearly 2 years old, and January 1st seemed as good a day as any to create a bit of a reintroduction to the show and a look ahead at some of the things you can expect to see going forward. If you're new to the show, it's worth noting that I created this podcast after a couple of years hosting my flagship Sales Success Stories podcast, after realizing at the time that the two best things about that show were also the two worst things about it. First, I only interview active quota-carrying individual contributors who are either the outright number one top performers in their roles or at least in the top 1% of sellers inside a very large sales organization. I still love that criteria and the focus on real practitioners who are at the top of their games right now, but it keeps me from featuring some great insights and ideas from so many other smart people. The second thing I love about Sales Success Stories is the depth. One of my favorite compliments is that I'm like the Tim Ferriss of sales in the way I deconstruct world-class sales performers. But the episodes are really long. On average, they're probably 75 to 90 minutes, and I know that can be intimidating. So this show is the exact opposite. Here on Daily Sales Tips, you'll find a new episode every single day, 7 days a week, and with very, very few exceptions, they're 5 minutes or less in length, which means you can easily dip into a quick nugget every day, or you can binge through an entire week's worth of tips in about 30 minutes. We release each episode at 4:30 a.m. Central Time. Now, I named this episode Encore for a couple of reasons. One of the ways that Merriam-Webster defines Encore is as a secondary achievement that surpasses the first. And that is my ongoing goal with this show, that we keep delivering even more value over time. Consistency is also really key as well. It's been 713 days since the show launched, and I haven't missed a day yet. Assuming I can keep the streak alive, you'll get to listen to the 1000th episode on October 15th, 2021, which should be a great day to celebrate. That will be the Friday after the Sales Success Summit that, with any luck, I'll be hosting here in Austin with a couple hundred of my closest friends. You can learn more about that at top1summit.com. I'm also planning to release the second volume of the Sales Success Stories book that we're collaborating on with Dale Carnegie and their Chief Sales Officer, Dan Heffernan, that same week. All you have to do is make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single day. But if you want to go just a bit deeper, and I hope you will, join the listener list. You can just drop your name and email address in at dailysales.tips. Or if you're in the US, you can text DST to 55444 to get access to my weekly email updates that we're working on making even more valuable this year. There, you'll get some of the behind-the-scenes action, bonus offers, first looks, and more that I reserve for those who are the more actively engaged members of the sales success community. We've also got the Encore series that's happening all through Q1, where we'll be bringing back each of the presenters from the 2020 summit to go a little bit deeper into their topics. Those details are at top1.fm/encore. But like with most great performances, this is not a solo act. I've got a great team helping me behind the scenes to transcribe the tips, turn them into audiograms, post those at dailysales.tips, and so much more. Plus, this show simply wouldn't be possible if it weren't for all of the incredible contributions of those who take the time to share their best tips and best ideas. You can do that as well, and I hope you will. You'll find the details on submitting a tip at dailysales.tips/submit. Okay, that was a lot. How about this? Like I do for every single episode, if you'll just click over to dailysales.tips/713, because this is tip 713, I'll include the links to everything I just mentioned. Do yourself a favor and do that now. dailysales.tips/713. Then be sure to come back tomorrow and every day after that for another great sales tip. Thanks for listening.